Okay, so I thought I'd make a video looking at creating a patch and adding some features to a Rust program. And in this case, the Rust program we're going to look at is called ALMA, which stands for the Arch Linux Mobile Appliance. And if you're not familiar with this program, it allows you to install a persistent Arch Linux distribution to a USB key. And that environment is mutable as well, so you can use it just like you would kind of a normal Arch Linux installation booted from your USB. So the specific issue we're going to address is this one here. So we want to be able to add AUR packages to preset files. So the way ALMA works is you can define different presets which define what gets installed with your system. So if we look at the examples here, for example, we have like KDE, and this would install these KDE packages and then run this script, which in this case is enabling the desktop manager. So with all this kind of in mind, what we'd like to be able to do here is to add an AUR packages array and have it also install packages from the AUR. So one thing to note is that these presets are actually composable, and I actually have a repository here where I've created my own preset that provides kind of a fully functional Arch Linux system using i3. And here's a screenshot of it running in QEMU, and you can see the preset files here. So these presets are actually composable. If you give a directory of presets, it will go kind of in order. Where here we've used this kind of like XOR config, font config kind of naming system, and it will do these in order, just in the order of these presets. This allows you to have some sort of dependency between presets as well. And if we look at one of these examples, so you can see this one is installing urxvt with the package, and then copying over the urxvt config file, which in this case is the xresources file. If we find a simpler example here, yeah, like the Git one, for example, is just installing Git, and it does nothing else. So in order to test this, we'd like to start out with just a simple preset that's just installing a package from the AUR and start from there. So let's go back to the repository here. So let's think about what we'd like to do. So we can create a preset file that just has one AUR package to try to install it. And then in terms of the logic, we want to be able to check whether any of the presets that we include contain AUR packages. Because if we're not trying to install an AUR package, then we don't need to worry about kind of whether we have an AUR helper defined, and we don't need the extra dependencies for pulling stuff from the AUR. So if we do have AUR packages to install, then we need to pull in the extra dependencies for the AUR, so that's Git and the base devel package. And we then also need to check that the user has specified an AUR helper. Maybe we'll provide one by default. We're going to have to add that functionality here. And so we'd like to add as an argument here, so we go to the command line arguments. We'd like to add as an argument here some sort of AUR helper. So you could specify to use yay or to use pack AUR, or whichever one you want, which will then be installed on your kind of final system. And perhaps we could even also adapt the extra packages argument to also have like an AUR packages argument if you want some lightweight way of installing AUR packages that doesn't involve kind of preset files. But we'll see whether that, how easy that's going to be to do when we get there. So let's get started. If we take a look at the source code. So bear in mind, if you were doing this normally, you would need to kind of fork the repo and then clone your fork, and then you can make changes. In this case, I've already got my fork cloned. So this is my fork of ALMA, and I'm currently on the master branch. Let's actually create a new branch, and we'll call it something like, let's just call it AUR packages. Okay, and that should presumably update here as well. Okay, cool. So let's get started by just having a look at the actual folder we're in. So here, I've run tree inside of the source directory, and we can see we have kind of these files for CI/CD, we have some preset examples, and we'll add one here for the AUR test. And then we have the actual source code in Rust, of course, and kind of within there some modules for storage and the definition of the tools. So let's get started by kind of creating a preset. Let's open this up in NeoVim. Let's open this up presets. So let's just create one here, AUR test. And let's have a look at another example so we can see kind of what we might want to include here. So we can take the KD example again. So in this case, we don't really want a script at all. All we want is kind of to install a package. And so let's just say we want this to be called AUR packages, and then we want to put something here. So let's think of a package that would be good to install. That's only on the AUR and relatively small, so we don't have to wait for it. So I think a good example would be that, which is kind of a cat replacement, which I'm actually using here. And since there's another package with the name bat on the AUR, this actually goes by batcat. So it's batcat gets. And so that. Okay, so now we have kind of one example TOML file that we can use as we add this. So let's actually get started on setting this up. So if we go to the source code directory, let's start by adding this to the presets file. So we want to add a key so that we can read this. Because at the moment, if we try to read this now, we would fail to read the TOML file. And that is because if we come to this presets file, we can see at some point we're passing a TOML file to get the preset. So we have this. Let's go back a bit. So we have this struct which is called a preset, and you can see we have like option vec string of packages, scripts, and so on, which correspond to the TOML fields. And here we actually use TOML from string here on line 39, and that passes a string directly to a TOML file. So if we have kind of fields here that aren't defined, we get this error here, this preset error that's going to be printed. So let's fix that now by adding an AUR packages field. Again, we get told this is dead code because we're not using it anywhere, of course. And now we need to be careful and make sure that kind of anything else we're doing with the packages list, well, vector of strings, we want to make sure we also do with the AUR packages. So, for example, we have process takes these arguments and actually creates it. One thing to note here, so when we load the preset itself is like the individual preset file. So that, in that case, these are vectors, and these are exactly what is passed from the file. But in the end, we want to deduplicate these packages, right? So if one package is included in multiple preset files, we don't want to have that kind of installed repeatedly. We don't want it to be reinstalled, definitely not. So in order to get around that, we convert these into a hash set because they're all going to be installed at the same time. So kind of the order doesn't matter either. So if we were to do this, like we need to convert this to a hash set, and that's basically what this process function is doing. So here, these are already hash sets, and we are adding on. So if some preset packages, okay, this is taking a mutable borrow of packages, and it basically extending it. So this is like kind of creating the global packages. So this is what our kind of main function will use. So here we're saying, you know, like for each preset, we're going to call this process function, and that's going to be given a reference to some kind of global hash set, and then we're just going to kind of keep inserting into this hash set with the packages that we have, and that will deduplicate the packages. So here we definitely want to do the same thing, like exactly what we do for the packages for the AUR packages. And let's see here, and we just copy the same thing. So let's call this presets AUR packages. So that's kind of the individual AUR packages defined inside the preset file. And then I'm going to say, and this will be kind of the global hash set of AUR packages. I mean, to be very careful to change it here as well. Okay, so this will add it. So this should be given some hash set, which will then insert the AUR packages into. So finally here, so this is that hash set. So it belongs to kind of the preset collection, which is effectively kind of this global hash set over all of the preset files. And so here we need to also add in again our AUR packages. Let's put it here. So and now we need to actually do this. That creates it. So again, AUR packages and that set, and maybe we should just come down here and fix it directly. So now we start getting errors because here we're not passing this hash set, and so we need to fix that. And in order to do that, let's actually split so I can call it up. So let's see, what's that preset load? Should we go up here? To process, and here's how I put it on the end. So here's let's pass a mutable reference to AUR packages. So this one solved, and now we need to do something. So what this is distinguishing between, so we have two cases here, right? So we have if we're given a directory or if we're given a file. So when we give the preset argument, we give it a path, right? But that path could be either a directory or to a file. If it's a path to a directory, we want to recursively go through, and this is how we compose those different presets. So we recursively go through all the presets and process them in order. You can see here we actually sort. But if it's not a directory, if we just get one file, then we just process the one file, and there's nothing else to do, right? So this is basically the same. Maybe we can avoid this duplication somehow, but it's not very much for now. So that's all okay. And now finally here, we also need to pass in AUR packages. Okay, so now we should be able to pass this AUR packages field that we've added to our preset file. So that's good. So now we actually need to be able to use it. So let's go into the main function, main module rather, and see like where do we even use this presets collection stuff to begin with. So the presets are loaded here, and it's called presets. So let's search for all presets. So we create, so for installing packages, this is one thing here. So the packages are actually installed by Packstrap. So when it kind of creates a bootstrap system, you can specify extra packages that of course can't be AUR packages, and it can install them. So those are kind of installed directly. So we have these base packages in constants, which we can use this window to look at. And this is just a list of base packages that have to be installed, and then we install those here. So we execute Packstrap, it installs kind of the basic system, and we install the packages as well. And then later on down here, we actually run. So we install the packages prior to running the scripts. So those are kind of separate steps. And then we loop through each of the scripts and execute them again in order. So, and also, remember, they can have shared directories as well for the presets. So this also takes care of that. So we don't really need to touch any of this part, but we need to add a new command, like somewhere before we run the scripts, to actually install any AUR packages with the AUR helper. So let's think how to do that. So first of all, we want to add in some sort of, like, the thing is that if we want to pull stuff from the AUR, we have kind of two additional dependencies. We have Git and we have the base devel package, and those two need to be installed if we're going to be able to install stuff from the AUR. And bear in mind, the kind of initial install of the AUR helper, we're going to need to do manually, right? Then we can just call the AUR helper and it'll be very similar to background. But the first time, we're going to have to do it kind of with package build ourselves. So it's, we have nothing to kind of handle these dependencies for us. So let's actually create something here and call this like AUR dependencies. And this is going to be base devel. And this is going to be Git. Okay, so we now have this AUR dependency. So now we want to say, well, if we have any AUR packages, then we need to we need to add on these packages here. So, for example, as we do here with packages that extend presets packages, we can say like if let, I should use if, right? If presets dot AUR packages now this is of course already a hash set, right? So this isn't like an option hash set. We just create the hash set anyway, and then maybe we don't insert anything to it. So what we can do is just check if this len is greater than 0, then packages extend, and hopefully this works. Constants AUR dependencies. Maybe this also needs to be a vector. Oops. It's a module, not struct, and it's not an iterator, so maybe we just put the iter on the end. So expected reference, so like a double reference to a kind of string slice. It found string because packages there's a hash set of strings. So we need to just copy this from up here, right? So we need to convert these static strings into actual like own strings. Maybe we could avoid this kind of allocation, but since it's so simple anyway, we'll just do it. So that's fine, and we'll collect that. And this still doesn't work, so what's the problem here? Expected expression. Because what, I didn't end the map at all. String from S. I didn't. What's the bracket? Cannot infer type. Actually, do I even need the collector? Can I just give it the area? Yeah. It's a lot easier. Because in this case we're collecting at the end, right? So this case we're just basically converting this to a hash set of packages. Whereas in this case we already have the hash set and we just want to kind of extend into it directly, so we can just use the iterator. Cool. Okay, so now that's working. So that will say, okay, if we have any AUR packages, then install the AUR dependencies. And now we need to deal with the AUR helper itself. So we'd like the user to be able to specify different AUR helpers. And maybe we'll provide yay as a default, just so, if you forget to add one, it still works. So let's actually do that. So let's think we'd want source args So we need to add a new argument to the create command. So we're going to want to call it something like that. So actually let's just so here we have to decide, like, we could allow a short form, so you could kind of have, a one-letter argument. So for example, you could have something like -x and then dash AUR helper. But I think in this case we can just have the long form and we'll provide a default otherwise, which will perhaps be yay. So let's do this. So this will be, get rid of this here, be AUR helper, and I'm going to say pub AUR helper, and this. So actually, really, we want this to be like an enum, right? So you can see up here, for example, on line 59 here, it's like passing this to bytes straight. So you given a string, and it passes it to bytes. So in this case, bytes is like some sort of struct that has like special. It kind of defines sizes in bytes, right? So you can pass in like megabits or megabytes or all these different possible sizes, gigabytes, whatever, in your format, and it will kind of deal with that for you. So it will convert that into a number of bytes. And so basically, the user can just type in 10 gigabytes, whatever they want, and this will take care of converting it. So that's what's kind of been done here. And you can see, in order to do that, they get struct up to call this pass bytes function. So we can do something similar with our own enum. We can define kind of from str for, or try from str for our own enum, and then have that like convert. And then if it doesn't convert, we can kind of print out like currently available AUR helpers, and if it's not there, then create a pull request to add your favorite AUR helper. So in order to do this, we're going to want this to actually be some sort of thing, like struct itself. We probably don't want to put it in the arguments module because it's not really related to that. So let's actually create a different file. We'll just put it at the same level for now and call it kind of AUR.rs. So here we're going to want, let's think about it, maybe a pub enum of. This needs to be camel paste, that could be annoying. I'll just call it AUR helpers. So something like this, and we're going to want to define different cases here. So let's maybe add in. So there's kind of a few different options here. Actually, maybe we don't need an enum at all. Maybe we can just have a struct. And a struct that defines two fields, right? So it needs to have a name. And we'll have it take ownership of these just because it's a lot easier. And it needs to have like an kind of install command string. Well, maybe we should leave this install command in. You can use the type to see this string. So the name is just going to be kind of the package name that we install, and your install command is going to be the command we use to install multiple packages. So like, for example, in Yay, this is just -S, like it's in Pacman, and the majority of AUR helpers, this would be the same. But if someone has some different one that uses a different argument, we want to be able to handle that as well. So this is maybe all we need, because most of the other logic is going to be inside the actual kind of from str. So we want to implement from str for AUR helper. So this is actually going to do the conversion. So the string that we get on the command line that we want to convert into this AUR helper. So, and then we also need to think about how we're going to deal with like maintain, like how do we provide to the user a list of possible ones? So what's the easiest way of doing that? Like maybe we could maybe have a separate enum of kind of just possible names, and then those map, and then from str does the mapping somehow. So we'll come up with something. So let's first get this done. So let's look at the documentation for from str, because I don't remember it. So we go here. So we pass a value, and the method we need to provide is from str that takes a string slice and gives a result. Okay, it's called from str. Okay, cool. So this needs to be like this. Take a string slice. Just call it like this. Give a result self, and then we need to deal with some sort of errors. So it's not an example here. So let's see what's the best option here. So we could have like an associated error type, or we can just type, just put the error we expect here. So the question here is, do we want to create our own error type, or do we want to use one that already exists? So let's have a look. So this is actually still using the failure crate, kind of like in a way the predecessor, as it were, to this error. And so it's very similar to this error, but like this. Actually, one thing we could do at some point is to port all of this to use anyhow, because since there's a binary crate, we don't really care about the only thing the user really sees is the text, right? They see this, and anyhow can still give you this, and we wouldn't have the different kind of device query error, invalid device name error. But the user doesn't really care, because if you have an invalid device name, the program's going to fail. It's not like you can handle that. It's not like this is a library and you can kind of match on the different error types and deal with that. Your program's just going to stop. So we could just actually use anyhow here, which would be a lot simpler, because then we just have here the one type anyhow error. But I don't want to do this right now. So let's see, is there some sort of generic argument error? There's a preset script error. Maybe we could use that one, but not really, because it's not really in the script itself. There's a no. So what do we return here? So if we get an error, is there any? Yeah, I mean, we could create our own one. So we could say, error kind, and say, we'll return this, and this derives fail, and it will give us a nice message. So that could work. And this may be the simplest thing. So let's do that for now. So let's just copy this one. So here we want this to be like you are. We'll just call this like error. Something like that. Okay, so this is obviously not used anywhere. So now we can say use. Let's create error. And what was it called? Hopefully that works. Okay, so that's good. Now we'll actually create this error at some point. So we could even add it here, like, sometimes you have these associated types, so you could put here that my error type is error kind, but we'll just do it like this. So we want to pass this from a string. So we want to match the strings. We can say like match So we're going to say if it's yay, then you want to give back okay. I don't need to return because it's going to be the only thing we're doing. So your helper, I'm going to say name. This is a string from this string from yay, and then install command string from splice. And close that, close that. So, and if it's anything else, then just give provide so that's the type, you don't take anything. Can I just do it like that, or do I need to like cheat and censure it? Do oops. Expected right curly bracket. Okay, so that's working. So this will kind of only work for yay, and then otherwise will just give us an error. And this will define kind of a URL help construct that we can use directly. And that should be good. We might need to make these fields public. We'll see in a minute. So that's all working. This now gives us something we can use here. So what else do we need to do? So one other thing we'd like to do is to, I'm pretty sure there's a way of like, so let's actually check this. So if we go here, so here I'm in the same repository. So let's run cargo doc server to get our docs. And if we go 0.0.0, oops, why is it 5 computers? I need to like HFC 4000. It seems to be just trying random rates here. What do we know is actually there? Result S3 is not there. We can use structure. That's the index. Let's try that again. That also didn't work. Interesting. Is it like? Pretty sure it's just struct operate. I have no idea why this isn't working. So normally this works and you just get the documents here directly. This is the right port. It's just kind of generating random crate names that aren't included. So why is it doing this? So actually if we just check our cargo document. Check this up. So instructor preset, that should be fine, but it should maybe like Tom. Okay, this is not working. Well, in any case, we can search for documentation, right? So in this case, we want to check the struct opt. So what we're looking for is that there's a way of telling the user what are actually kind of possible inputs. So then when they print help, they can see possible inputs are, you know, yay, and kind of ones that have been implemented. So if we look at this here, possible does not exist. So So here, okay, so it's just possible values. So we can define like a raw array, like slice, directly, and that would work. Or I think we can give it a function as well. So possible values. So we could do either, and like kind of which is the better option here. So in this case, it might actually be easier just to give it the raw array, because it's not like we really need to do any computation to work out like what we're. Such possible here. Strange. So it's not like we need to do any sort of computation to work out the possible values, right? We already know what they are, and it's kind of a fixed range. So let's look at this again. That brings down. So, well, we'll do that in a minute. So let's get this working. So there should be AUR helper. I'm going to need to go and import that. So use create AUR helper. And is that all we need? Okay. Unresolved import super AUR. So what is the issue here? Can't I just pay one? I don't think so, because there's something. So this should be the actual structure, right? Anyway. But what is up with this? So we call it AUR.rs. Because I haven't included it in the main file, right? So here, we need to actually include it as a module. Okay, and now we can probably put super here. Nice. Okay, so now we have AUR helper, so we come down here and say this thing is going to be AUR helper. We want it to be optional, so it should be optional. AUR helper, etc. structure. So can't find trait. So where is that? This we need to import it. So let's import this here. It actually needs. Is there an example here? Type. Okay. So something like this, and then here we can just put self. Like this one. Okay. And it does not work. Why? Oh, because here I forgot to add this in the actual result enum, right? Okay, so okay, that looks good. And now okay, so we create it, but we never read it yet, right? And here, again, we instantiate it, but we're not reading anything. So we now have an optional AUR helper thing. And the only thing we'd like to do is somehow say, kind of, for everything in this that actually matches here, we want to be able to provide that to the user. So we could just we could just duplicate this list, and that would be the easiest way. What are the other kind of possibilities? So, we could kind of match if it's inside some sort of set, but for now, since we only have one, let's just go with the duplication here. So just say possible or equals. Do we need to borrow there? Let's try. So this should be like this, and then here, here we just have right? Let's see if that works. It does not. So possible values raw not found. Is it raw possible values? What is this? So let's go and have a look again. So, I mean, the alternative thing we could do as well is like print out these possible values for when we get an error. So let's just check here other examples. So enum and args is similar. So here they use possible values and they call variants. So in our case, we don't have an enum because we want kind of like fixed values. So yay should always have kind of the same command. It's not like you can have yay with different commands. So, and variants. So let's go and change this. So if we go, so maybe this can just be possible values. Okay, so that should all work, and this we can test quite easily. We can check it. Maybe let's actually do that now. So if we go build. So with that, we're almost done. Now, the only thing we need to do is to actually run the command to install the AUR packages. And then so we need to run it. How this works is we run -- create. Just help. So, yep, there we go. So there, just to show, so the -- here, so if we put the arguments before here, they would apply to cargo run itself. So like we could print out the help of cargo run. And then the kind of double minus here means we end taking arguments for cargo run, and these arguments should apply to kind of the program that cargo run will actually run, which is, our ALMA program. So that's why we want to put the create and help after the kind of double dash. So now, AUR helper possible values, yeah, so this works exactly as we wanted. Perfect. So that's all good, and we'll get an error if we try to use anything else. And if we want to implement more, we just kind of add them on here, which is a bit awkward, and add the implementation here. So that's all working. And so we've already dealt with we've defined AUR dependencies, we've defined the AUR packages key, and we've added in the ability to specify the AUR helper. So one other thing we might want to do here, like while we're here, is just make some let's just copy this, because since we're going to be dealing with this anyway, let's just add in this functionality too. So we could have let's just call this AUR packages, and let's just not give it a short form. and we'll call this again AUR packages. And this is just an abandoned package. Let's just copy this AUR package. Does that work? Yes. So I don't know where the value name is actually used here, because if we go back to, let's go back to main, so actually look at stuff, and this was called extra packages, right? So if we actually look where we use extra packages, so it's just passed into packstrap directly, right? So this is a vector, so we give it a slice from the vector, or borrow from the vector, right, and pass that in directly. So, which is also strange because there's like absolutely no deduplication here, but I thought we'd use this to extend our general packages and then just install it all as one. You should imagine, we could also call extend here, drop this vector, or drain this vector into the general packages, rather than passing it separately. But it shouldn't matter either way. Like in the end, this is just going to receive a big list of packages and install them, whatever we do. So that's fine. And so let's not change that right now. So we basically want to do exactly this setup with the AUR packages, probably before we run the script, so that scripts could depend on kind of other AUR packages. So now we have both these in main. Let's slow this down a bit. It's over. So one thing we want to do is actually look at the ch root. So we will use arch-ch root, this tool, to run it inside a ch root, and that gets given the mount point each time, because we need to make sure we're running it like inside the installation and not just on our own computer, right? And so the arch-ch root is what does that. So let's actually just copy this and do it here, I guess. So maybe before we run custom scripts, after dealing with fstab, should really matter. So here we go. We have, so the mount point's not going to change. And we can see it's already defined here. The path new. Okay, so this we just get rid of completely. I wonder what it was actually running here. Script find example. Okay, so there it's just like it's running the script basically. And so here, obviously we don't want to do that. We want to run the installation command. And all of this, in fact, where did we have this? If preset AUR package len. But we need to install this after that, so we can't put it in the same block. So let's just put it further down here. It's a bit awkward having two blocks. Okay, and now we need to check that we actually have an AUR handler, and actually that reminded me as well. We wanted to set a default here, and we didn't do it. So let's actually do that. And then does this need to be an option? So if we give it a default, it's always a valid value. Then if someone enters something that's not a valid value, this will actually fail to pass, and they'll get an error immediately. And otherwise, we'll always have an AUR helper that will be instantiated to either yay or kind of another valid value that they've entered. So this probably doesn't need to be optional at all. Although, is that the way to do it? So let's see. So we want to add a default here, which I think is just with default. I don't know if this works, because I don't know if we can specify the default as a string they would enter rather than kind of this default AUR help object. Let's have a look. It does not work. Because default is not the right argument. Let's have a look again. Default values. That's default underscore value. So now we have an option here. So it seems like it will try to take the type, right? But we could actually implement default for our struct and then just make the default struct be A, and this would have the same effect and actually skip all of the parsing. Let's see if this works, and if not, we do that. Default values min list option, if that's exactly what we thought. So then we just get rid of this. And I mean, it seems happy with this, like giving it a string, which I then guess is going to pass. So maybe that works. In a way, this is simpler to read. Otherwise, we could kind of just give it default value and then implement the default inside our struct. But I think this is a lot clearer. Like, it's better to have this in the argument, like args module, so you can see immediately, okay, the default is yeah. It's not like, oh, I have to go and look at the AUI helper and see what the implementation is to then realize, oh, actually the default is yeah. So let's leave that. So that seems good. And so that means it's never optional, but that's fine. And we haven't used it here yet. So then that means the only thing we need to check is if we have packages. And if we have packages, then we will call it. And if we don't, then technically we've created this whole thing, like this struct and whatever, but we never actually used it, right? We never installed the package. And so that's fine. So, of course, there's another thing we've missed out here. We actually need to install Yay as well, but we can do that inside the same block. So let's first of all just write out like what would Yay do with the packages. So we go to the mount point, we do this, and we get rid of all of this stuff inside here. So what goes here? We want to install. So we want to call our script, which was called. Let's try that again. So this is called install command. So then we're just going to do. Was it app? What's the other thing's called? AUI helper dot install command. Now it's a bit weird that in the install command we have kind of the argument as well, right? So you might need to separate those. We'll see. I think this works. Otherwise, we could make this args and give it like some sort of iterator here. Since it's just a string, this could become like some sort of, maybe like a vector over string slices, and then these become just string slices, and we iterate over those, and then we give it args instead. That would also work. So let's see if this works. If not, we'll do it that way. So we give it that, we give it that, and then we need to give it. Now we do actually need to use this args thing and give it presets to AUR packages. Is there any other way? So we can also get AUR packages from AUR packages. So that's one thing. And we can also get this from the kind of extra packages, which up here they just called from command directly. So why do I say app here? Maybe this should be command, right? Command extra package. So what is command here? So command is already the correct command. Yeah, so instead of doing it from that, we can do it from command. That's fine. Makes sense. Over here. So now we have the command, we get the install command, we get the presets packages, and we also want to get command dot. I think it's also called AUR packages. So let's check if this works. It does not. Okay, so we can just make this. Let's just make this public. So we can just make both of them public. Okay, hopefully that actually works. At the end, we'll test everything together. So that runs, and it will try to run whatever we've done, but we now also need to install Yay itself. So let's think how we do that. So we need to basically clone the package build into some directory, cd into directory, run make package, and that should install it directly, right? So we can always check the archwiki again. Let's try and do this. So we can get rid of this whole thing. So here, this command is now going to become git clone. This is going to become command. Well, format is probably the easiest way. So format this. Oh, actually, something slash this, and this is going to be our package name, which is command dot helper.name. This is why we made it public a minute ago, and so that's fine. And we need to make sure we have enough brackets. So that's all fine. And now the URL we actually want to clone we can get from the AUR instructions. So we go here. So we see basically run this command. This will put it into a directory called package name, and that will already have, we don't need to do any checksums or anything. Make package will do all of the work, right? It looks good. Looks good. It'll be interesting to see how we run make package from within the directory, from command. There's probably a way of changing directory in command, and we'll look at that in a minute. So for now, we copy this. Oh, we need to put .git on the end as well. So this will get it from the AUR, get our package build, and that's going to be put into the AUR directory from the current directory. Now, of course, we're mounting there directly. There's a question of like, do we want to actually do this somewhere else? Or maybe just remove the directory at the end. That's probably the simplest thing. Yeah, we don't need to keep the build directory around, so at the end we just delete this directory. So we have to be a bit careful here. So and now we can get rid of these two and run it. That's fine, this is fine. Check our standardize is okay, it is not. So args, yeah, why are we using args here? It should be arg. Cool, so that clones the repo. Now we need to install it. So in order to do that, we want to look at this. So arch.ch root. I think this is basically just a command, right? If we're going to have a look, source tools, ch root, how this one. This is just ch root. This is tool find, right? So let's go back to source tool. .rs. So find is defined here. It gives us a result of a tool, and execute creates a new command. It creates a new command. So this is a way we can like cd kind of here. I just say, okay, well, when you run this command, the same way we give the arguments, actually also change directory before you do it. Hopefully you don't need to kind of actually manually create a command. So let's have a look at that. So this is standard process command. It's current sets the working directory, so that's exactly what we needed. Okay, so be careful with relative paths, which actually is what we're going to use here. But anyway, so, but maybe we don't need to, because I think we're running this as root, and we're running it directly in the mount points. It's going to be just in the root, right? So we can run it and then just delete it afterwards. Right? We can create the directory wherever we want, install all the stuff, and then delete it afterwards. I mean, there is a question here about whether you really want to be running these AUR scripts as root, but for now we'll do it this way, because you don't always set, so you don't have to, like in ALMA, you don't have to set up a non-root user, right? It's like a base Arch Linux installation. You don't need to do that if you don't want to. You could just run on root the whole time. And so we can't really force the user to have like their own user that's not root and all of this. So we will just do it this way. And yeah, so it's basically relying on people, writing valid presets and having kind of valid packages in AUR that aren't malicious. But that's always the case, Like even if you're running stuff as your own user, it can do a lot of damage. So with that in mind, this is going to work because we'll clone it. So now we can just do the same thing. I'm just going to run make package, which will already be installed because we installed the base devel. So this is going to be now this, what was it called? I would probably give anything, presumably anything that gets, that can be converted to above. So this is actually going to be just name, right? So does this work if we go command dot we'll see in a minute. And package. Okay, that apparently works fine. So that's all good. So the pain of this is that this stuff runs at the end, right? So when we test it, it's like we have to install the entire base platform, and then we see at the end if it works. And it's not an easy way around that. So with all of this in mind, we build the package. So we see there, we build the package which should install it. There are no other steps here. Let's just check that. Yeah, make package installs it. And so you were using kind of VA or whatever, so that's fine. So that's all good. We installed our AUR helper. We're done. And now probably we should delete this kind of build directory, which is, what's the easiest way of doing this? Because we need to delete it like from within the mount point, right? So we could run it, like we could just run RM. Is that the best way? There's probably also a kind of deletion method we could use. Actually, we can have a look. So let's just copy this, move this down. So we have to do something similar when we unmount the directories, or maybe not. So let's check that actually. So when we deal with shared directories, in fact we were looking at it earlier. So here, mount shared directories, right? So we mount them, mount stack, maybe we don't. So it looks like that because that unmounted when this mounts, that goes out of scope. So that kind of just deletes the directory. Anyway, we can check inside of this thing, of this mount stack, and see what that's doing. So storage, mount stack. Bind mount is here. So when it goes out of scope, it calls umount, and this just unmounts it directly. Okay, so this isn't going to help us in this case. So I mean, we could just run up RM for now and fix it. later, or for now, let's just leave it and check this whole thing works, and then come back to it in a minute. So we install it. We install our packages, and that should work. So this should give us kind of yay, and then install. So let's actually kind of test this now. Now, in order to test it, we actually want to test it in QEMU. Oops, I'm moving the wrong window. So let's get rid of this. So we can look at the README to see how to do that. So if we go here, like we first need to kind of create like a base image for ALMA to install to. I do have enough disk space, so let's just. So we want to create like this maximum size of the image. We then mount the image as a loop device, and then ALMA will then kind of see that as though. Well, so we create the image with ALMA. And then in order to get kind of QEMU to read that, we have to mount it as a loop device. So actually, in terms of creating an image, like the ALMA side is very simple. It's the QEMU side that requires this mounting. So basically we run this, and it should be fine. So is there anything else? So this is like this. We want to pass it a preset. So let's go back here and check again. So let's just run. This again. So it's just presets. Preset files. Kind of weird that extra packages actually has the short form. Should we give the short form to presets? But anyway, so that all seems fine. And in this case, we're going to say, okay, do it to an image, and we're going to give it that image. So, oops, let's just copy this. And copy it. I have a feeling, actually, let's do this properly. So let's like build it. Because I have a feeling we need to run it as sudo for some of the mounting stuff, so let's just build it to release, and then we can just run the binary sudo, and that also shows kind of exactly how we'll run the final binary. Right, that's all going fine. Okay, so we already have our preset file created, and basically what we're going to do is install it, log in as root to what will just effectively be a terminal, because we don't want to install an entire system, it could take even longer, and then check kind of, do we have bat installed, do we have yay installed, and what is like the state of the thing. Like, probably we'll end up with this yay directory still there that we'll want to actually go and remove, assuming it works. So it could even hit some sort of installation error if there's any mistake in our commands. Okay, so that's all done. So this will be built to target release. And we see ALMA there, so I'm going to do like sudo /ALMA. And this thing, create. Let's remove disk encryption because we don't need it right now. And we need to add in the preset file, which is going to be, I assume it runs on the current directory, so something like this. So we can do AUR test, and that all seems good, so let's try that. Oops, I did mean presets. And you see, so here's how good, like, struct top and clap are, that you get really nice error messages. Following required arguments not provided. Ah. Interesting. Okay, maybe because presets contain multiple presets, I think it doesn't like having this on the end. It's like trying to read as a preset, so move that to the front. Cool. So we can see it basically installed in Arch Linux. So it installs kind of a very minimal system. So you can just only 124 megabytes to download. And, you saw this in kind of this constants file. So if we just have a look at that while I wait for this. So this is kind of the only things we install. So it's like grub, boot manager, FFI. Intel microcode, interestingly not AMD microcode, that should probably be added as well. And some stuff for Broadcom wireless. Even this stuff, like this might not need to be in the pure kind of base, right? So, but it's a very minimal setup in general. Only network manager is not particularly. So this will take a while to install. Obviously, the more packages we have, the longer it takes. Failed to run git clone. Interesting. What's that error message? No cover, we don't care. Full vac. Failed to run the command git clone. So we can't do this trick of combining. So it's trying to run this argument as like one argument together. So it's looking for something called like git clone together, right? And we don't want that. Clone is the argument to git. It's not like git clone together. It's the command. So we need to split those up, and that's going to be annoying. So here we can just do this. And that as well. And maybe if we put these in one line, actually, it might make more sense. I don't know if Ross wants to move it anyway. So let's find git clone format. Command AUR helper.name. So that's going to be yay. It's going to go in there. And that should work. Git clone, bam. Is this the same issue here? So these arguments also might be the same, right? We can look at examples actually. Yeah, so they tend to use .args, stuff like this. So let's actually do that here. .args. A slice of strings. So this is basically the same thing, making sure it doesn't try to run it as one command. So anywhere else we should do that. So here this is fine. This is one argument. This is now separate arguments. Here as well. So install command is going to hurt us. So as I mentioned before, we're going to need to change this. So let's move this out of the way. So this shouldn't be a string. This should be like a vector of strings. Yeah, because we don't want to have to deal with references. So, and this vector is going to be initialize yay string from yay string from s. That's fine. And we can say dot value of type vec just seems to be into item. Alright, what am I even doing? Right, I can just use the vec macro here. So that's fine. And now this doesn't work because this is the number of things we need to say. As ref. Oh, because now this needs to be args, right? Yeah. You actually need this item. Cool. Okay, so we're out of the way, let's try again. So now we're going to need to remove file. And of course rebuild it. But at least we know it tried, it read the AUR package, right? So it tried to run Git, so it tried to install Yay, so it means, at least all of that side of things is working. So it's just kind of the commands to actually install Yay and install the packages. Okay, Git clone is working this time. No such file or directory, but it cloned correctly. So we should probably have debug messages here, so we can kind of see more clearly what actually failed. But if we go up here, so what, the CD didn't work? But it clones into Yay, right? So why does this not work? Do we need, what can we do here? I mean, maybe we need to specify that it's like a relative directory, or make it kind of an absolute directory, but not just have Yay itself. Maybe. So let's try one of those. So let's assume that we are here. So let's just put slash assume. Okay, now of course the problem is we have to run it again. I mean, maybe it's a way we could get it to cache the files so we don't have to run it every time. Because that's, the slowest part is really getting the base image. So let's run it again. Because the problem could also be if make package isn't installed, so let's actually check. So base deval. Interesting. Is it installed it inside of Pacman or something? It's provided by the Pacman package, so it will be installed, so that's not a problem. So then the problem must be this, changing the current directory. Because we also didn't get the error from make package that like it couldn't see. So this gets the same error. That finishes, this runs. And it doesn't install, so why doesn't this work? I mean, we can try and make this relative. I mean, Arch CH root, what does Arch CH root actually give us here? Again, mod. So Arch CH root gives us command. Just going to execute this tool, first tool. So of course, this doesn't work inside the CH root, right? So you imagine we're changing the directory of ourselves, like we're trying to change the directory outside of our host system, but like where we're executing Arch CH root, whatever. But this has nothing to do with the directory inside the CH root. So how do we deal with that then? So maybe we can look at how Arch CH root actually works. Arch CH root. The problem is like we need to run this like inside that directory, but also inside the CH root, but also with the correct root for the CH root. So is there some sort of way of doing this? Like CH root, change directory. Further change the root. So open dash. Let's actually have a look here and see what we did. So first one command. Okay. So this doesn't do what we want. So we'd like to have some way. So the problem is make package, I think, has to be executed in the same directory. And that's the other thing. Is there a way of running make package? Oh, maybe just also check here. Like make package. So it only takes options. Is one of these options to. So I installed it. Use an alternative config file. Use an alternative build script. So maybe here we could specify like the file in another directory. Is there anything else? But bear in mind, all we have is the package build, so it's going to have to clone down a load of files, and we prefer to do that inside that directory and not do it kind of, in the root directory. It's going to be much harder to clean stuff up. So how can we deal with this? Do I have Arch CH root installed? So there is no. Let's bring up. Try it. And there it is. Century command. If kind of not in bash. So what we're going to do is execute this command from inside that directory within the ch root. I mean, so the question is like, how are we able to kind of pass these arguments? Like, can we do something really simple like just cd our name, which is going to be kind of this is command. Oops, inside string command your helper name, and then yeah. So you can kind of imagine like what we would write on the terminal. So yeah, the problem here is really working with ArchCH root, right? So let's just try that again. Just get to a clean image, build it. And now we run this. So ALMA create. Okay, that's fine. So the only thing we're having trouble with is just how to run the command that we give to ArchCH root with the same CH root. It has the same kind of directory structure. It has the same, root, the same /bin and whatever, so it can install the package correctly, but actually run the command that we give it inside another directory. This might actually be a real problem with how we're kind of running stuff inside CH roots, given that make package can't change the directory itself. Like it can't be given something. It can't be given two separate. Say okay, build it here, and take the package build from another directory. Failed to run command cd. And that's because cd is built into the shell. So how can we do this? Let's run command. Oops. Let's run command different directory without shells. That's it. Without cd, we're using this. So the problem is we need it to run inside the CH root. It's not like we could just cd to the mount point ourselves and run it from the host system or anything. Like, it has to run inside the CH root. There's no other option. So maybe the other option is, instead of using this command thing, like, we could actually run the shell and then give the arguments to the shell, right? So we could give bash the arguments to say, kind of run bash in this directory, but only run this command and then finish. And so maybe there's a way of doing that inside of bash itself. Bash run command directly in directory here. So let's just have a look at the imagine the first non-option argument command string if the arguments after the command string. So we could use like -c to actually pass the commands in, right? So then the only other thing we need is somewhere specifying a directory, like the first directory that we're in. Which is hopefully going to be another. Alternatively, we could try to again do this trick of running cd, but this is not ideal. First non-option. So, I mean, we can test this ourselves, right? This is not something we need. So let's see if we run like bash. Let's see my code. Does that work? Well, the commands are read from the first non-option argument command string after. This is an example. Bash options command string. Oh, how do we specify kind of multiple commands here? Let's see, what if we just kind of PWD or something like this? Okay, that works. So echo, I guess because it's echoing inside the bash, like inside that bash shell itself, so we don't see it. We don't really care about that, right? Although this might mean we get no standard output, which could make this difficult as well. So bash C, so let's say we do like cd repos and then pwd. Okay, this works. So we can do this. So we build this string that we pass to bash, and then we have basically bash do all of the work for us. The only downside is that like this returns successfully, right? There's no issue there, but we may have a problem where we can't see the outputs. It's just been echoed. Like the echo clearly doesn't show. What if we were to run like cat on some from there? So cd repos just forks ALMA, and then do and cat really and do something like this. Okay, that works. So we do get the standard output as well. So this looks like a good way of doing it. So my God, so here we're going to do bash, and now C has to be another argument. Now this is no longer separate arguments, but rather just one big string that we give it. So we're going to want to probably use format here. And we want CD, and we're going to want the name. And make package. And let's get rid of some SI. And the only thing that we need to provide here is command your helper dot name. Okay, we need to put in comments here. Did I miss some brackets somewhere? Found string. Okay, so we run it with bash, we cd to directory, we make the package, and the package that we make is okay, and we just run make package into directory. That will do it. So okay, that looks good. And then here we're going to run this, but here the directory doesn't matter, so we shouldn't hit this issue at all. Okay, so let's try that. So if this works, we can use QEMU to check that it's installed properly. And then if that's all fine, the only thing we need to do is kind of clean up the build directory that we can actually check from QEMU. Oh, run make packages root is not allowed. Now that's an interesting problem. That is an interesting problem. So what do we do here? So packages that we install. Okay, so that's fine. But packages that we install with AUR, are they actually installed globally or are they installed locally? Because then it's going to be a whole issue about, what if they create, because we can create a temporary user, right, that we use to do this, even though it's getting quite complicated. But otherwise, so we want to make sure, so make package cannot run with sudo. So, I mean, the simplest way would be, is there a way of running something as root without sudo privileges to run? Yeah, so obviously we can create another user to this. Is there any way we can restrict permissions without creating another user? So that's non-root. SU. Okay, that's without user size. Okay, so I recommend creating a temporary user. All right, so let's think about how we do that. The other thing we should check is that AUR packages are installed globally. So let's actually test that here. If I just log into another user, sudo su is installed, and then that bin test.txt. You do not have read access, write access here. Okay. So let's actually just do that. Oh, because I'm in my own home directory, that's why. Well, I mean, you can just read kind of that, but you can't actually read anything. Okay, so that is installed. So it's installing it globally, so that's fine. So we can create a temporary user and use the temporary user to install the AUR packages, and that will keep them installed globally, even for root. And then it's kind of up to the user to create another user, like their own user in the preset file, if they want to have a non-root user, which they would need to use the AUR, or to use EA as well, for example. So let's do that, and this should be added to the documentation as well. So we basically want to create a user, but we already have an example of this, so we don't really need to think too much. So ALMA presets, and we have this user tool. So we just need to add the user. We don't even need to give it a password, right? I think we can sudo su to it. So we need to install sudo as well in this case, and there's not really any way around that, so we can add that here. I'll put this up. But in this case, we don't actually care about any of those. So we don't need it to be wheel, we don't need it to even have a password, because we can just su to it directly. And we can use, because we also need to pass it the command. Our command string is going to get really complicated now, but let's do this anyway. So here we need to create like a temporary AUR user, just going to be user add. So git this now becomes user add. So user add dash n user. So like we should clean this up as well, right? So there we go. We do user adds. That creates our user, and that should be all we need. But do we even need dash m here? What does that actually do? So look at that. And user, I think that creates the home directory now, which you probably don't need. And okay, m creates the home directory. Dash m doesn't create the home directory. Like with cap on it. So let's do that. So dash m. So hopefully, like yay, and that is not going to need a home directory. I hope it doesn't create some config file or something. If not, we can always create it and clean it up later or whatever. So let's try it like this, just to keep it as clean as possible so we can clean it up in an easier way. Okay, so this does this. For now, that's fine. Now the question here is, like our user isn't going to be privileged to read files in root. So what do? Maybe we do create a home directory and then just do everything inside the home directory. So git clone. Okay, so let's do this. So if we want to do that, we need sudo here. In fact, let's just sort this out properly. So args. Okay, so we want sudo. We want whatever is in sudo dash u, I think. Dash u user. I believe we use dash u. Okay. So sudo dash u ur, and I always fit in the commas. So that's fine. So sudo dash u ur git clone. The issue is like we might need to run this inside a bash as well, so it get really complicated. Let's try it. So git clone this, and we need to somehow give git clone the directory to go to git clone to dash o, I guess. So using that's origin. You give like the output directory. Okay, it's just given. Why is that? That's optional, right? Okay, cool. So it looks like it will create it for us anyway. So then we just add in another one here. Dog. And this should also just be the name, right? Well, actually now maybe we want like /home / something like this. Now we need to put this inside format. And so that's fine, and you need to have this AUR happening again. And .AUR helper done. Okay, so with that in mind, that should work. So that will create it to this directory. Now we need to bear in mind that it's in that directory. So we no longer CD here, instead we CD to this whole thing. And what else? Bash C. We need to run this. The whole point of this was to run this as user. That's not right. This should go here. Sudo u. And all this, and hopefully that works. So that runs that, and then we're done. So that's load it again. Target release. Yes. Test. Yeah. And then just run it again. Okay, it's going to take watch one. So we're fine. It was strange, that issue earlier with the cargo doc server. I have to have a look what the problem is. It's really weird. Like, it was just given kind of random crate names and not actually showing the crates that were in the project. I wonder if I need to cargo clean or something. Oh, so they need to be in the sudo's file. Man, this gets more and more interesting, right? So that's not going to work. So, in this case, so we want to put them in the sudo's file with no password, so that so we don't need to set a password for this user, right? I mean, in the end, we want to clean this all up anyway, but let's look at doing that. So I think in my preset, I deal with this exact problem. So we want to run this. So okay, we add them to wheel. And we just say, okay, wheel shouldn't have access. Is this the best way of doing it? Okay, I mean, let's give no password access. Let's maybe just do this and not add them to wheel. Because like, we don't want to kind of edit the base system just because we installed some stuff from the AUR. So this sudo's file. So we're basically uncommenting this line, right? But we can actually do a trick, and instead of putting the wheel group, just put the name of our user there directly. So how do we want to do this? So let's move this out of the way. So we need to run this before we call sudo and after calling this. So let's do this again. It's another command, and we're going to run this whole thing. So let's actually just paste that so we can see it. It's long. So basically we're going to run sed, right? And this is going to be run as root, so that's fine. So we should just run sed. do we need to specify this as a string? Let's try and do it. And if in the end we don't need to, we can just not do that. This be AUR. Just AUR, right? It's the name of our user. That's just it. So, okay. So that's fine, and then we need to add on slash. Which fixes because we already installed sudo. So that should be fine. And we can get rid of this. So this is basically going to give us no password sudo access for the AUR user. So that gives us no, that allows us to run make package, that installs package, and we're done, and then we just need to clean up the AUR user. And since this is now all in its home directory, we can actually just kind of delete the home directory, delete the user, and we're done. So let's try this. Expression unknown command. Okay, so we don't want to put it in quotes. All right. Let's do this again. So ideally, you know, we could have like some sort of base test image to make it a bit faster to test. It's a bit awkward because obviously we're kind of running stuff within the CH root, so it's not exactly the same syntax as we've seen, having this issue with having to use bash and with this, so it can make it kind of tricky to test. The package as a whole has some CI/CD packages to make sure that like a standard set of presets successfully installs, and or at least a base system. But definitely it'd be useful to have kind of faster testing right now. Okay, so we want it to be non-interactive. We'll look at how to do that in a minute. And so this is now actually installing the bat program, which presumably depends on Go. So we'll look in a moment how to tell Yay to just install directly. There should be a non-interactive argument. And it's good that it does install the dependencies, so we don't need to worry about that. So that's the Yay itself installing, sorry. And bat will be installed afterwards. Yes, the only problem is it is installing some stuff locally. In fact, even the binary. So refusing to install AUR packages because we forgot to add it here. This is frustrating. So yay installs now. So our make package is working, everything's working, and the issue is here. So we just need to do the same trick. So basically where we do this, sudo, we just come put this down here. And there. And that should work. So now let's think a bit about like how can we clean this up as well, right? So like Linux, delete user and home directory. So just use user install, so that's not we have. Yep, and it seems pretty standard, so cool. Okay, so we just run userdel -r, and that will also delete the home directory, and that will delete everything that's been run. So let's actually do that as well. And then really we should undo this change, but that doesn't matter so much. Good for users. Well, we should do it. Or we can just reverse the set argument, try this is trivial. So, and let's put something here like inside this even. So let's clean up user. So let's actually have a look at what happened here. So we have some issues in that the completion stuff that gets installed inside that user directory, right? And so it means we kind of lose that, but without the user specifying kind of the user they're going to use, it's not really clear how we can deal with that. Yeah, so here you see, so it installs these the binary and so on to the user specific stuff itself. Like it's installing it to slash, like ideally, and we could just move these to root if, and maybe make package actually does this itself. Like that, maybe that's why it requires sudo access. So we can try that in a moment as well. So this is fine. So before it said not to run the wait, what was the error exactly? Refusing to please avoid running. Okay, so we actually don't want. So we run it as AUR, and we do the same thing here. And we don't run it. Yeah, we don't run it as root. Run it as our user that happens to have password listed as sudo privileges. So that's fine. And okay, so let's just write some quick stuff to do this. Actually, maybe we don't want to do this yet. Maybe let's do it at the end, just so we can at least check the image and see what the state of the image is. So let's delete that. And we rebuilt already. So this is now running as AUR. This is also run as AUR. And so is the clones, that's fine, okay, looks good. So you can see PackShop actually caches these packages, which is what is making it faster kind of now that we're installing this repeatedly. Of course, the installation process still takes some time itself. Oh yeah, I meant to add this argument to make EA non-interactive, but never mind. What's interesting, it seems make package is also like it can trigger Pacman, and it triggers Pacman in a way that is interactive as well, which is a problem. So I have to check that too. And yay. Would it be? Yeah, yay. So yay is also interactive. So that's now yay. And now this is installing it from AUR, so we need to make this non-interactive too. We can actually say yes in this case. No, it doesn't really matter. No. Yes. Okay, so this is now going to download and compile it. So BAT is actually written in Rust itself, so this is going to have to put in its packages. So this might take a while to build, actually not the ideal package for this. I'm sure there's a lot smaller packages on the AUR in retrospect. Okay, so now we finally had a successful install. So with this, we can now follow the instructions to run it in QEMU. So let's do that. QEMU is here, so that's fine. So first of all, we need to mount it. So here. And now we can use J to find out which things is dev/loop/1, and then we can actually set ALMA actually wraps QEMU for us, so we can just do this directly, and this should be 1. So now you can see we're booting Arch Linux here. So we could have installed like a full system, if we wanted to wait that time. So root is actually has a passwordless login, and now let's have a look around. So if we go like bit, do we even have installed yet? V installed? We do not. Test. And let's use BAT. And BAT command not found. Interesting. So even though it's actually one thing we can do OpenSUDO SU to AUR, we didn't delete this, right? So that's deleted this. And now if we go here, it's also not found. So did this actually successfully install? So remove dependencies. Rust not satisfied. Install Q. Cloning to BAT could not resolve all dependencies. Why not? So what, it could install Rust by the looks of it. So where was this error? I'm missing dependencies clang. So this actually seems like an error in the package build, maybe. Like why is this not specified to be installed kind of by default, right? Like we can have a look at it if we go to AUR. So Clang is here in the dependencies. So why can't it install Clang? So in the make dependencies. So why does it not like? So we can clearly see it in the package build. So maybe that the source wasn't updated. So when you create a package build, you have like this source file. Maybe this also wasn't updated. Yeah, so it looks like Clang is actually missing, right? So obviously I have Clang installed from, working with Rust and whatever on my home system, but Clang is actually missing in this package. So this makes the package not ideal. Like, we can't actually install it because we know, right? So we can add it as a dependency. So actually, what is Clang? Is that Clang is an extra? Okay, so we can install that in our. We can modify our preset file, right? So if we go here, go presets, go UR test, and so here we can add Clang. So that should solve its problems. This is now annoying because we can't actually see whether this worked that well. Let's actually go to / and check home. Okay, so now let's test this side. So we go to AUI, what's actually inside here. So yay exists as a thing, but it looks like all this stuff that it built is then moved by a package builder. That's why it requested sudo access. So it moved this stuff. So what do you have in .config, just to be sure? Okay, so there's nothing in the config. So there is no kind of config specific stuff that's being installed by Yay. So that's fine. So that means we can delete this user just fine, right? So if we back out here and go userdel -r, that's fine. We're in home. Let's go back to /home. Oh yeah, because there's no directories in /home anymore because /root's home is /root, right? So that's good. So userdel works. We know that works. We know the package is installed. So then let's just add userdel directly. We know the -r argument all works okay. We know that Yay isn't leaving anything inside of that user. And so overall, we should be safe to delete it. And if that's the only dependency that's missing, then this should all work out fine. So let's power this off. Go back here. We do need to now unmount. Do I run it from here? Yes. So is it sudo -sub -d and something like that? Let me just check it again. Okay, now it's not mounted. That's good. So that's working. Let's delete the image. Yes, and then let's add in this kind of cleanup step here. So we're going to run this, and what we're going to run is userdel, right? Userdel -r and nothing else. And then we also want to fix up our sudo's file, make sure you can do just by reversing. I mean, there's almost certainly like a better way of doing this, but let's get at least something that works, and then we can create a pull request and then kind of hash it out in the pull request. So here we go. So we first do user, that's fine, and then we want to sort this out. So these should just be inverted to here. So AUR or whatever becomes this commented out wheel thing exactly as it was before, and then that's applied to sudo as. This is run as root, that's run as root, and then we are finished where so if I save this, right, I'm missing a bracket somewhere. Why? There should be one here. Don't know what happened there. Anyway, so that's fine. So that all looks good. So this should be everything working. Let's try it now. It's been a lot more complicated than I thought, right? So we had to deal with this whole thing of running things in bash, so we can change the directory, running things as sudo, creating this temporary user. It's much more complicated than I thought it would be, but at least we're kind of getting somewhere. So that's good. So did I remember to delete it? Yes. Okay, so that's running again. So one other thing is, at the moment, this only installs to USB devices primarily. You can also install it to any block device, but you can't install it to a partition. It installs to the device as a whole, and that's done so that it can easily enable full disk encryption. However, there is another issue to address this, so that we can target a specific partition that we've created, install Arch Linux to that partition, and leave the rest of the device intact. And then also decide, do we want to install the bootloader or not, and all of this. So that would be really useful if we wanted to use this as like a generic Arch Linux installer, because you imagine already we have this whole way of composing different packages. So we can set up our whole installation, we can share config files, we can, I need to make this non-interactive as well. We can share config files, and we can kind of compose an entire system. So this would be really useful as a way to install Arch Linux. Imagine you could use something like some .files manager like Chinois or something like that, and use that with ALMA to have a way of instantly installing your whole Arch Linux setup. And then the only thing we're kind of missing after that is a way of running this on other operating systems. So this uses have you seen like Arch chroot and a whole load of other stuff, Packstrap. So this was kind of built to run on Arch Linux. So if we don't want it to run, if we want to run it on things that don't have those dependencies, then we need a way of doing that. So there is actually a Docker file inside the repo that should work. And so the idea is, you could run this on like other systems, you could run it on Ubuntu, or even on Windows. It would build a local small Arch Linux distribution that would then be used to run ALMA and build your kind of final distribution, like wherever you wanted to. Maybe on your disk to install Arch Linux itself, maybe on your USB stick if maybe you're like have to use a Windows machine, but you want to create your USB stick or something like this. And I actually do have it installed on a USB stick. It's been very useful. I install a whole load of like disk repair stuff on there, and as mentioned in the GitHub documentation, it's really useful in that it's persistent. So it's not like some special case distribution. It's like, okay, I can install all these disk utilities, but I can also install Vim and Rust and program on it if I wanted to. If I boot on some laptop or whatever. So you can use it anywhere. You can boot on anything. You can boot. I've used it to boot on a MacBook. I've used it to boot on older laptops. My desktop computer. At the moment, there isn't kind of secure boot support. That's something that could be added and should be added. It's just tricky, so that I can test it on my desktop as it supports secure boot, but I turned it off. I disabled it a long time ago. I'm not sure I still have the vendor keys, and so it's hard to test that. Like, it's hard to get hardware to test on. So, and because of that, because most Arch Linux users tend to disable it, it's also kind of not a huge priority either. So let's actually, while we're waiting for this to finish, we can at least sort out this thing of making these. So make package. Maybe we can just do it here actually. So make package. I want you to not. It's not like a silent thing or something. No confirm. Prevent pattern. Okay, that looks good, right? So that's that done. Are there any other cases? So make package is one. And then we have the install command, so we're going to need to add it to the install command. That's easy enough. And then we have user del should be fine. I don't think it asks us anything. and obviously says fine. So let's check this as well. Source, wherever you are. And here this is going to be this. So now let's go to EA again. There's the man page. It does. I imagine it's no confirm as well, but let's check it. Okay, I just want it to like not ask anything. We're fine with it calling sudo because we'll do that without prompting the password. But how do you just say like no converter? Packages do not conflict. Yeah, there you go. Nutraceuticals. Okay, so we can pass it this no confirm to the make package argument, right? Which is one thing. Is it going to prompt us anything here? So we can use m flags, right, and pass it no confirm. But we also want this to just not ask, right? What is pack commands ask for that? Ask is not found. Okay. Where is this? Because the chance of conflicting packages is very small, right? And if that's an issue, that should be resolved, either by the user or probably by the user manually, or in the preset file itself. But we do want, in most cases, we just install the stuff directly. We don't want to have to prompt the user every time. Quiet, manuscript titles, force download. Let's see, so yay. So it looks like maybe no confirm, no edit, none of this. Okay, this is now actually building, and we can see it's much slower because it's building this this package, and you see it includes a whole load of stuff. So at least we know it's working. So let's do this. So yay. So no clean menu. It's probably too before. Like this, right? Okay, so that's fine. So that is new line. And then downstream. Okay, so no clean menu is fine. No diff menu. No edit menu. Relative flags here, so that out. So locally menu, no different, no edit menu, no upgrade menu. Okay. The other thing we want to pass is let's actually give that a user. And let's actually give it that use asking, just in case you just don't want it to stop. And then we also need to give it this M flags. So this M flags, and then after the M flags, so it gets sent to make package, right? So this should be no convert. It's just not no convert. These flags, just split in white space. An example of this. Okay, no, it needs to be passed as an argument. Already. So where is that? This should be no confirm. And should probably be separate. Let's try it separate and see if we get an error in this. Okay, so amazing, we've got no error here, so that set command all worked correctly. And now we just do the same thing again. Check this, mount it, it's definitely one again, that's fine. And run it using menu. So do we have Yay installed? Yes we do. Do we have that installed? Nice, okay, so now we have Yay and Bat, that's all good. And let's actually check where did it install to? It was like user share ZSH. Well, there is an underscore Yay there. Where was it going to install these completions to? Maybe. Yeah, it's okay. We have the Yay bash completion, so it's installed those correctly to the root directories as well. So that's all good. So that all works. We're basically finished, right? So the only thing we need to fix is this thing about it installing without kind of prompting the user, because in the cases where the packages are listed inside the presets, we don't want to prompt the user. So let's just try and fix that now. Unfortunately, it takes a long time to compile, so hopefully this will work. And then we should be ready. So mflags example, I really. So they're saying put the -s first. Okay, let's do that. Because I was thinking, why is like -s? It's just going to be passed as though it were an M flag, right? We don't want it to do that. So let's put that here and try this again. So that's all done. This is passed, no confirm. Make package, no confirm. That already worked fine. So let's just do this again. So QMU, we need to run it. So recreate the image, which will take a while, and hopefully this works. And then we're done, really. So we've undone kind of all this like temporary state that we created in terms of this temporary user AUR to not have sudo privileges. We installed the packages, of course. Just as a root user, like the user in their presets would need to define another user, but that's okay because like, if you look at preset examples, often they're set via like environment variables sent to ALMA. So, for example, you can look at my preset, but while we're just waiting for this. So let's have a look at this. So if we go here, you can see I take the add user example, it has some steps here, so it has no password and it gets its XDG user directories. So this is stuff like, you know, .config and whatever, this sort of thing. So, but here we take this as an environment variable and we specify this environment variable must be specified. And so if we go back, hopefully it's in the documentation, this should be specified here. Let's check, is it still running? Yes. So usage. So you can see here are the environment variables that you have to specify. So you have to give it your time zone, which is going to be used to configure your clock correctly, and the username. And then when you run it, this is actually interactive, that you will be prompted for the password. And for the full disk encryption, and also for the user password in a way, you kind of have to do it that way, right? Otherwise, it's like, how do you securely pass the password, especially for the like secure full disk encryption? This is tricky because I think like crypt setup won't take it from like an environment variable, so that would be very difficult to get around otherwise. Okay, so this make dependencies after install is still a problem. Let's just write this down somewhere like here. So this is installing EA. No, this is installing Batcat. Right? Yeah. So this is inside of EA that's the problem. So let's just put that here. Whoops, daisy. Hopefully that's. Okay. I'll just go. Okay. So let's just say, I mean, we're going to want a BS in this case, really. Okay, it also still prompts us for installation, so clearly this is not working. Oops. So, okay, so let's just say we want to proceed. Because we're getting prompted for the dependencies. So it was Rust that it asked us about, not the package itself. So we're not being asked, do we want to edit the package build? We're not being asked, do we want to, you know, upgrade Infist, whatever. That's all fine. The only problem is the dependencies, which are being triggered in pat command, presumably. So maybe the same way we're passing stuff to make package, maybe we can do the same thing to pass it to patman as well. And this make dependencies thing. So let's have a look at those. Yay. Okay, it's not useful. Add option to remove dependencies without asking. So it's remove makes. So those ones that were not. So if you have a look at this. There's no edit menu. Is there anything else like that? So remove make is obviously one of them. Clean diff edit upgrade we already dealt with. And that seems to be all of it, so might be past no rebuild as well. So no rebuild. Sudo we don't care about. So no rebuild. Actually, so it doesn't really matter either. And remove make, right? Actually, remove make. Okay, no rebuild. So add those here. So the idea is just to try and stop it prompting us. So the other thing is we need to somehow set flags that get sent to Pacman. We'll also clean cache. So this will also remove the cache, clean dependencies. So the only thing we need to do is make it not. So we could override the pacman command, but it's probably a better way. And so package conflicts. As for upgrading at the same time, maybe we have to. Let's have a look if there's a better way of doing that. So, yay. Yay, dependencies. Okay. So look here. It's not an option. Options really. So this is for like overriding it with another binary or maybe a script. But ideally we'd avoid that. We can set a pacman config file. So repo. Untitled package list. So the end flag block is literally just a case of how do we pass something to Pacman. I mean, this can't be such a difficult problem. Yay. Wait, so does Yay just take the Pacman? Is it like is no confirm? Answer diff. Like, is no confirm even a valid flag? I mean, let's maybe check this, right? So if I go here, no confirm, run claim, for example. No confirm. What if I put like yes, maybe? Okay, I mean that did it without asking anything. Without even asking, so that is definitely being passed to Pacman, so then that's what we need. But I already had no confirm here. So it isn't being passed. To Pacman in the case config. That says it would be passed to Pacman, but clearly it wasn't passed to Pacman in this case. So I'm going to just try this again. So we have no confirm here inside of Yay. What other options do we have for Yay? Let's just go to this one. So let's go and fix that as well. so answer clean. None and none. So that should mean we basically, like yay at least, should never ask us anything. Did I set that to no remove make? I probably want to set it to root. Oh, it's remove make, okay. So this seems fine. So in this case, let's actually just create another image because we haven't really changed anything here. So let's just see if we can fix this. And we can just quit it. Like I should have cancelled this one. We can quit it the moment we have an issue. Oops, I did not recompile. So with that in mind, let's just run this because it creates it instantly. With that in mind, let's run that again and see. So we have to install Linux from the cache, and then like at least when you're running it so frequently, it will cache the latest versions, and so the versions aren't going to change between the subsequent runs. And so it's just all cached, and this is why it's so fast. Okay, so now even though it prints it out, I didn't have to like touch it to get it to install. So hopefully it'll be the same with the dependencies. So when it has to install Rust, no, unfortunately, it's still requiring user input here. So when yay triggers a dependency that has to install via Pacman, then it just ignores all the flags. So this is not ideal. Yay install dependencies. So that's not the same issue. So it's like it's installing dependencies via Pacman, and then it won't do it non-interactively. Okay, so for now, we'll leave this and just test that everything works. And if the rest works, we'll create the PR and just leave it as a note in the PR. So at least it is installed in BAT. So there's definitely ways of improving some of this. So we don't need to run this like a script, the said stuff, because we could actually write to the mount point directly, right? So we could actually just, edit this like you'd edit, any text file in Rust. And this doesn't have to be done via the ch root. Like, there's nothing that the sed does that needs the kind of ch root environment. Obviously, for stuff like userdel, we do need to do it that way. But at least the sed stuff could be removed and simplified. And ideally, some way of simplifying this bash stuff, because this is kind of very complicated, but I can't see no way around that at the moment. So with this working, this should more or less be done, and we can kind of create the pull request and submit that. And I'll show you kind of the process of doing that as well. So let's just wait for that to finish compiling. I should have chosen a smaller package. But in a way it was good, because it showed us this issue with EA, that if it needs to install a dependency that's in the main repos, like Rust in this case, it will have this issue where it's not passing the configuration through. So that's something that should be fixed, probably fixed within EA, if there's no way around it. I mean, the other option here would be to use something like the yes command to kind of automate, just saying yes to install. But this isn't ideal, because we don't know what, maybe in some cases, like what happens if there's a conflict and you kind of don't want to do that, right? Like in exceptional cases, we'd like to still be able to present, if it's necessary to the user. And, obviously if we use something like yes, this would just skip all of that, and they wouldn't even see this request for input. So that's not an ideal solution. The best thing would be kind of working out how to fix this in EA itself. So this is really slow, just getting all of the kind of Go dependencies for that. And all of it. So here it has the different syntax for different languages. And so you can see it's getting like Verilog and Ginger and SCSS, whatever. And so for all those cases, it will give you nicely formatted output. and it seems it does that by having a load of separate Git repositories that are then cloned in, which is what's making it so slow. So now it's compiling, and then we'll check the state of what we've written, create the pull request, and kind of just summarize ALMA as a whole. So I think it's a really useful tool. So as I mentioned before, you can install kind of primarily to create a live USB, also to kind of any full disk if you wanted to at the moment. And the issue I mentioned previously is actually this one. So if we can specify a target partition, then we'd be able to use it effectively as an Arch Linux installer as well. And so that would be something interesting to work on too. It's taken a long time to compile. So what here should we move these above? Yeah, M flags. Hold on. So here, I was passing that in the M flags, no confirm, not in the yay config as well. So maybe this will fix it. I don't really want to recompile it to check, but maybe we'll just create a separate image and have a look. So that tiny typo could cause a big problem. Let's at least check that this is okay, and then we can check to another image, and then that should be good. So let's do this again. So F, J, put it on loop 3 this time. I don't want to recreate it. Oops. Can move loop 3. So here. Now bam, we have yay, and we have bam. Cool, so that's all working, and let's just check the state here. So we have no AUI user. Let's move the cat password. And we have no AUI user here, so the whole user's been like removed completely. Maybe let's just check sudos as well. And we can see we've restored this line on the wheel, and we have no reference here to things. So that's all working well. That seems good. So let's turn it off. And now let's finally recompile it one more time. So actually, we don't need this image anymore, right? So let's just delete that. And we'll compile only to the step of, oops, I forgot to detach the loop back, but it shouldn't matter. So we'll run it only to the stage of actually installing. So did I remember to rebuild anything I did? Let's just rebuild it anyway. ALMA test. Yes. And let's run this again. So this will now run and build our image. Hopefully it won't prompt at all in Yay now that we realise we have to put the no confirm on both sides in to what we send to make package and also what we send to Pacman, like via Yay. So hopefully this works. If not, we can open an issue with Yay. So while we're waiting for that, let's actually have a look at this final code we have, right? So here, diff. So let's just overlook our changes. So we create this AUR packages string, which we never actually tested that, but that should work the same, right? So here, AUR packages is here. So we do exactly what we do with the packages, that should be fine. And then, okay, we add an error. And then we have all this code for dealing with running it via bash. And we have the new hash sets for the AUR packages. And that's everything. So all in all, it's not too complicated. Let's see if it's going to prompt us. I have to install Go first. And now it works. Okay, now, so we can stop this here. So we know that this is working fine. And that seems good. Okay, so everything seems to be working. So let's create a pull request. And that's good that in the end we were able to fix this no confirm issue, even if it was such a small typo. So let's do this. We have everything we need. So get status. Let's maybe do it on this window. We can search and see stuff. So let's maybe rename this preset to be like UR test UR, for example, towards this. And just also UR, that's fine. We've added those, that works. Okay, so I don't think there's any tests here, right? So we need to finish double check. Okay, there's only a test on the devices, or whatever, and we want to include all of these files. And let's like this. So here we want to say add AUR packages. Presets. Maybe let's write more general adaptability. So presets. Argument. Okay, let's just check that is right. So, yep, AUR packages, that's fine. Argument in the full create command. User specify. Let's actually test that as well. So if we go to do this, we can give it all of that. If we say AUR helper test. Oops, that's because I put it on the end there. Nice. Test isn't a valid value. Okay, that's exactly what we want. Can specify if implemented. So, more can be implemented. this should be like non-interactive. So look, how do we do this in the end? As providing as instance okay, so that kind of covers everything. So we have no confirm working, so let's just add here some node make package nj non-root user afterwards. And that kind of covers everything, right? So it runs in a non-interactive form. We can specify AUR packages. We've installed an AUR package and tested that. So now we can create our preset that has our full system and also include things like that that are only in the AUR at the moment. So that's useful. And we've kind of resolved this issue. I will tag that issue on when this goes to GitHub. So let's do this. So commit made. Let's just check everything's okay. Project AUR packages. For some reason this clicking alacrity isn't working properly. And if we want to notice to add a way to install. Let's check this is formatted properly. So the issue we resolve is on this one, number 43. So here we can like target the issue and it's all show up nicely. Issue, so resolves issue 43. So first draft here. Editing the pseudo file. And the way we run make package. Okay, so we run make package like let's just put like -. So that kind of covers everything. So user can only specify this with AUR helper. Okay, that looks good. And there, so with that, we've created examples. Anything else on the left here? Oops, I left these comments there. Let's fix that as well by pushing into that branch. So the comments, anything else? Anything here? Sometimes just fix that. So that's in the AUR tool. Okay, now let's just push this again. And now, I mean, GitHub should do this automatically. Yeah, see, it has come in there. Just refresh the page. Cool, that all looks good. So with all of that, we're done. Let's create this, check this all looks okay. And bam. And I forgot to edit the title. And I can. Okay, there we are. So with all of that, we've kind of finished what we wanted to do here. So it took a lot longer than I'd originally planned, mainly due to these issues of not being able to use root to run these commands, and then this issue with EA of where we needed to pass no confirm twice, so both to make package and also to EA itself. So that was tricky, but we got it all to work. So it's not the cleanest code, and perhaps in this pull request we'll address some of those issues before merging it. But hopefully you've learned about how to make a pull request, kind of working in Rust, working with an open source project, and hopefully you're also interested in ALMA. I think it's a very good tool. I think with just a little bit more work, we'd be able to install kind of generic Arch Linux installations via ALMA as well, and then we'd have something that can both deploy to USB with optimizations for the live USB that you can see down here, and also the being able to install it to a normal disk. So, for example, it has some optimizations which are here somewhere in the README about kind of not, like basically avoiding reads and writes wherever possible. So kind of like limiting the journal is only in RAM and a sort of small size. You don't have like journal on disk and kind of a whole load of stuff like that. And so it's really useful, and I think this could be adapted to also work as like a generic install of Arch Linux, and ultimately become a new way for people to install Arch Linux, because these presets, if I go back to my repositories here and find this example, Arch for USB. So these presets, are really useful. You get a full Arch Linux system, and you don't need to do anything at all. You just type in your password and provide a username. And so this works really well for a USB key, but also I think, for actually installing Arch Linux itself. So hopefully this has been useful. As always, it's been a bit of a different format in terms of more live coding, which unfortunately in this case turned out very difficult due to these unexpected difficulties, but that's always the case with programming, so I think it's a very realistic image of what it can be like to resolve an issue. So hopefully it's been useful, and as always, please subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this. Thanks.